I'm starting to think that this crime happens more to men than women, only because I went into my dental office and I've talked about this and I still haven't gone back. And I wanted to check to see if this thing was still on the wall. Because this one day, the women's bathroom all of a sudden became locked and there was nobody in there. It was really weird. And they go, "Oh, you could use the men's restroom." I'm like, "Okay." And so I go in there and somebody took the hand, to get the soap, the dispenser, and put it up diagonally in front of the toilet, up high on the wall. And it's so obvious because you're like, why is a soap dispenser on the wall? And I noticed it was just like screwed in all weird and like somebody pulled it out. It was so strange. And the first thing that came to mind is, did somebody have a camera behind it and they came and took it, or it's there? But I couldn't really get to it, It was like some tall guy probably just, did this thing, and I was looking at it. I was like, well, if I'm going to the restroom, somebody might be taping me. It's not a good feeling, guys. And I go to sit down and I was going to go talk to the front desk about it and just ask them, like, is there a reason, like, why this is in that place? Because it shouldn't be there. And some guy came in from next door and they started chatting away. And I guess he comes in there all the time. And I started thinking, I was like, well, what if it's that guy, right? We don't know. We don't know what the hell's going on here. Maybe it's none of that. And it's what would be the reason for this? I mean, none. I couldn't think of a damn thing as to why this would be like that. And I don't know. They tried to say somebody was in the restroom, in the women's restroom, but there was nobody there. No one ever came out. Nothing. The door was locked, like purposely to like force you to go into the men's one. And so I was just thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go up there and say anything right now. Because what if it's that dude, right? So I don't know. But this story came up, and I was actually looking at a whole different story because there's a bunch of deaths going on around here. There was a place I looked at too, and I was like, you know what? I don't know what the hell is going on, but yeah, they keep finding bodies on the beach and in a river out here, and the lady that left completely disappeared. And like the first thing that comes to mind is her, but it also wouldn't be uncommon for her to just like not call, like, but she was supposed to get something. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. Let's hope not. So then drummer for indie rockers, the new pornographers. Yeah, they're not new. This is old as hell, but arrested on child pornography charge. Okay, Joe, 44, which I believe is a millennial, is charged in California with possession of child porn and annoying or molesting a child. Can we just get the adults for annoying kids? I mean, just alone because they've been. Okay, Riverside is really bad with crime. Riverside has a lot of predators. Riverside has a bunch of psychotics. I would never want to live there again. I have had the worst experience living in Riverside, and the officers are absolutely unreal. There's a lot of conduct there, and nobody ever got busted. One of them was some guy trying to drive me off a road and almost took out a bunch of pedestrians, and they're like, what do you want us to do here? Yeah. The drummer of the indie rock band, the New Pornographers, has been arrested in California for allegedly possessing child porn and other sex offenses. According to a news release by the Riverside County Sheriffs, he was arrested after deputies spoke with an employee at a Palm Desert Chick-fil-A about an unknown male who was entering and exiting the bathroom with male children on several occasions. Deputies were dispatched to a Chick-fil-A on April 7th and spoke with the 11-year-old boy who said an unknown male recorded him on a cell phone while he was using the bathroom. Deputies were sent out a second time to the same location on April 9th for similar circumstances. An employee allegedly stated that a male was entering and exiting the restroom with minors at the restaurant. When the employee believed it was the same man from before, he contacted the sheriff's office. When deputies arrived at the Chick-fil-A April 9th, they identified the man to be Cedars 44 and took him into custody. He had played drums for the Canadian Indian rock group The New Pornographers since 2014 and performed on 3 of their albums. Investigators obtained a search warrant at his home, vehicles, and cell phones where they found evidence of him being the man who kept showing up at the restaurant, the sheriff's office said in their statement. They also found he possessed child porn. Cedars was booked into a local detention center on charges of possessing child porn, annoying, molesting a child, invasion of privacy, and attempting to invade the invasion of privacy, according to Riverside County. Their investigation is still ongoing, authorities said. The Riverside police believe they may be additional victims and encourage anyone with information to reach out to them. The New Pornographers said they had immediately severed all ties with the drummer. Everyone in the band is absolutely shocked, horrified, and devastated by the news of the charges against Joe, and we have immediately severed all ties with him. The group wrote, "Our hearts go out to everyone who's been impacted by his actions." Cedars is being held on a $1 million bail. But for Riverside, it's totally fine for men to treat us like that. So it wouldn't even be making the news. It'd be like, men just want to, watch you like that. We know they do. So the thing is that it's the thing about it is that like these stories will pop up, and then the ones with women will go in there and we find these cameras, or women will find these cameras in the bathroom, or I've suspected it in homes that I had stayed in, at least 2 of them now. And nobody cares about that. It's sort of like, but all of a sudden a dude does it to another dude and they're like, this is the end. But I think it might be more common in the thought of these parents, again, with men with other men, because of the mentorship. Like, we shouldn't be bothered that some older guy is literally walking past my kid into the bathroom. We're going to let my son go alone. Why do you let your son go alone? You tell women not to go alone anywhere, but your sons go alone, and this is what's been happening. It's not new. It's not a new thing. It's sort of just like, oh, these men are, they're calling them gay men, but we don't know what the hell with this, because even on his videos, it could have an array of things. I think it probably has been a very common thing. This crime in particular being done onto men. Maybe it has been more often. I don't know, but I'm afraid to go back to the dental office. You know what? Too much stuff was going by that I didn't even get a chance to have a talk with them, and now I feel kind of weird. Like it's like a while past. And I don't feel comfortable going there because I feel like somebody there taped me, or maybe it was meant for the men. I don't know. I don't like it. But the women up front were like, oh, it was like no big deal. You could go ahead and use the men's room. And I don't think it was them doing it. I don't know. I don't know. You need to answer, why would there be a soap dispenser in front of the toilet on the wall? On top of the wall. Pulled out weird. It was so strange. I was just like, am I really going to do this? I have to go to the bathroom. I was like, you know what I mean? But I have a suspicion. It's like someone's got to explain this. Can your dental office explain to me what the purpose of that would be? Nobody's washing their hands on the ceiling. And why is it directly in front of the toilet? So if you think about it for men generally, when they go in there, what do? Yeah, so they're kind of like, the angle, like it was angled down, like just straight directly in front of the toilet, but above it, like the wall's right there, and it was like above it. I have no idea, you guys, but I wanted to go back and see if it was still there. It's like, is it just there all the time? Is it just, and none of the men care? Like, they don't care, like, why this thing is there? I mean, yeah, but I haven't been in there. I need to go get my teeth done. I need my normal cleaning done. So, but I'm scared to go back there. Because what if it's one of the dentists there? I can't say that I've had any woman follow me into the restroom and do some weird thing like that. Or at least thinking that she did anything like that. It may be going on. What if it's going on and we don't know it? I don't really think too much of it, like when I go in there, because it's such a normal function that everybody does. So it's kind of like, But you never think that somebody's trying to, like, tape you. I think the difference in the men's room, too, is they have the open thing going. And whereas women don't have that. And I personally wouldn't let any kid go in a bathroom with anybody alone. But it kind of sucks if you're like a mom and it's just you and your son. Like, you're not going to go in there with them. But I would want to make sure that nobody's going in there with them. See, me personally, my solution to this problem, where everybody's complaining about the bathrooms and men and transgender, everything, is that they should always be a single stall thing, a single room. That's it. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to cost more maybe, but no, there shouldn't be anybody able to go in there together. That's just me. I go, that's just, I don't know. That's just not possible. Well, it is possible. It's called redesigning. Like, it's called redesigning. You could have multiple rooms, like multiple bathroom things. That's just me personally. Other people don't have a problem. They wouldn't even care. But really, in public, because we know that men are into this, I was like, this is actually a problem. And they do things without consent. So it'd be one thing that says, buddy, you know what I mean? But we know this is their thing. So with that in mind, the way things are going on in public. So I don't see this being much of a difference when a landlord doesn't make a wall properly and you can hear through the wall and you could hear kids doing that, right? Aren't you guys a little bothered by that? There's a lot to that. And I was like, yeah, the law should be, they need to make sure that nobody can hear through the wall. I mean, it falls in line with something like this because you don't know why they did that. You don't know what the MO was behind building something like that to begin with, and it could be for the purpose of that. You don't know. That's the thing. You don't know what the purpose is behind that. So, yeah, the creep factor was high over here. Yeah, there's a lot. I was like, I told the inspector, I go, this is the most insane thing I've ever ran across. And I feel violated. And it was done, I believe, during the time that I was here, in the middle of me being here. And it's the right thing to do is to think the worst. It is. Because you don't know. And nobody should be doing that, right? So this guy isn't a type of guy that doesn't know what he's doing. He so knows what he's doing. And he knows it's wrong. And, this isn't, I was so ignorant. I didn't know, like I shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I said that some guy stole my video camera when I was in high school and then just went into the locker room and started taping all the dudes in there. None of the guys even reported him. Because nobody did anything at the time about it. And you're talking 91. I'm like, 91? So in 1991, this crime happened to a bunch of guys at our high school. But we didn't find out about it until later. It was a strange thing because, number one, there was no topic on this at all to Generation X. It was horrible. And my friend and I are watching our video. And, the videotaping back then, it's just spliced together. Like you tape something and it tapes something else and it tapes something else and something else. And we're just watching these little snippets that, all the kids were taping different bullshit. And in the middle of this, it's like, oh my God, we're in the men's locker room. Oh, hell no. There's like half naked dudes up in here. And I was like, who did that? And she lends my camera to some dude I don't know. So the guy technically committed a major crime. And we're just sitting on it, just like, oh, what the hell? Like we're so stupid, we're ignorant kids, what do we do with this? It wasn't even, neither one of us are alerted. Oh, we should go report your friend. She wouldn't do it because that's her friend, right? But I'm sitting here just like, I'm in shock. Like, it was shocking. It was very shocking. It was more shocking that, the guys were mad. Like, the guys were, like, calling him an F word. They're like, hey, this, that, you, whatever, because they're taping them. And they're pissed. But it ends, like, right there, right? All of the guys in Gen X at our high school that was in the locker room on that day didn't report it. Like, that's the other thing you take from that incident, because they're not even alerted. Oh, I should go tell authorities. Oh, I should go tell the principal. Or, oh, I should do these things. They didn't do any of that. And then neither did we. So, it's just that was the environment. Like, literally, there's no topic on it. None. And so now I'm like, where's that video at? Because these people stole my videos and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's not a good thing to be roaming around. But it's also proof about something that happened. And it's proof that I wasn't the one doing it, thank God. Because I was like, what if somebody gets a video and they think it's mine because it's on my video camera? But the thing is, I couldn't go into the men's locker room, and it was some guy talking to other men, and the men were calling him, names and stuff like that. Because if it was me as a woman at that time, those guys, for me, if I did it, they would have been just, saying, say, they would have got me in trouble, I think, at that point. But again, it would probably be selective of what female did it at the time. But I don't know. They didn't respond, you guys. They didn't respond. So again, hindsight, and when I'm when I'm researching and going back through stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, guys, why didn't you report it? Yeah, and I know it happened. I was like, don't lend your camera out to your friends, man. Like, what the hell? They're going to commit crimes in a bathroom. They're going to commit crimes in a locker room. And the men are totally fine with all their sexual abuses. Like, for them to not a single one of them to get that guy in trouble is just like, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that. Like, me personally, like, it almost seems like it would be something I would have done to my friends at F with them or something. But technically, I would have never done that because it just involves too much. You talk about other people that you don't know, and you're going and invading this space. For some reason, I'm more comfortable with people I know. That might be also why a lot of these perpetrators go at people that they know more often. But it's like I feel comfortable screwing around with my friends than I do like some group of people who I never met. Like, it's that's a different mindset. And so that kind of cues you in a little bit, even into their mindset. That's why we're going through it. It's pretty interesting. So you can figure out their mindset because it's off of things, how you would do things or you wouldn't do things. Some people wouldn't even do any of that because it's too frat housey. But I'm just saying that there's a level here, and then the level that like this guy does is like, hey, there's somebody else's kid. I'm just going to go commit, do something with no consent, which you should never do with the kid anyway, but do something that they're not consensually involved in, right? A person is not consensually involved in with you. So if this was an adult and they're doing it, again, it's the same concept. Like the adult could be into it with the other adult and they're into it together consensually. This conduct is about doing things against people's will, and it really goes back into that frat housey mindset and, them knowing that's the whole reason why they're doing it, the secretive factor of doing something against your will, and then as Bill Maher had said, it ruins his rapist vibe, basically, if he has to stop and ask somebody for consent. He needs to do things where nobody stops him from doing it. It's just crazy, but that's really the place that it is. Somebody else, actually this topic, I was like, do I want to talk about this topic? I know a lot about this topic, just generally, but when we're looking at causation, I'm not exactly sure the causation of this particular thing. Tori Spelling was doing something in front of her son, which I think was really bad. It's not like this alone. I know one of my followers said that there's another YouTuber that's way into that. Actually, I'll just let you know in QN. There's a lot of men that are into a lot. And in fact, I kind of first caught wind of it, I think, from the Asian culture. The Asian culture. It seemed very harmless. It's harmless when it's just, consensual people, but it's not harmless when you're going out in the public and doing it, just taping random people. So that's the line. It's a very clear cut line, you guys. So, yeah, so we know that exists. And so the problem with it is that we know men they don't get consent. So because we know they're into this, they don't get consent. And I was saying you guys should be freaked out about your kids being around a lot of these men, because even police officers and things like that, because they're into a lot of these things, and you should be educated on all this weird stuff that we're talking about, that people would call freaks and whatever and whatnot. Because that is the general population. That is it's a normal thing for most things, I think, are just normal and they just happen. They just happen because of the environment, and this is just one thing that happens. Some things are derived through abuses that is bad. Like, it didn't need to come about. It wouldn't have came about had these other things had not happened. So we're looking at causation. And we're talking about how does it come about in an individual. And, I think there's a lot of debates on these topics. Some people, you could ask the individual, like, why did you get into this? And they may run across a story and say, when I was like 3 and Billy came over, they might do some story like that. So, but you have to talk to people to, get that information and come down to, conclusions of how did this, come about, this particular thing right here. And, yeah, you'll find it happen in their childhood, like so young. And so, a lot of us are not totally educated on all of it, like where it all comes about, because there's so much out here. And it's also individual too, as well. Like, somebody that's into this isn't into kids, right? It's just that's the addition, that he's into abusing children. So that says more about this individual on the child portion right there. So it's not him following a bunch of adult males, right? And doing that, because that's just as bad. But there's a particular reason why he's following children. So you're just breaking it down. And no, we don't know all the answers to it, but we know the areas and to what to look at. And then yeah. And now I was going to say another thing about that. The thing about, Tori Spelling. Yeah, she said something about going to the bathroom and letting her son watch her. Well, number one, that's really bad. Two, that because they're going through their development years right there, so they could sexualize watching their mom on the toilet, and then they're going to chronically want to, reenact watching their mom on the toilet. To her, I guess it seemed harmless. I don't know. Her home life sounds like a cluster F, like her dad, everything. It sounded like they had a too controlling father, and then, I don't know, neglect. Something weird. I don't really know the whole thing about her. It's like she's off kilter at times. So I don't know. I don't know. It made the media. So I was like, is she doing that for attention? That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that with your son. But they're not thinking about it. Like, they're not thinking long term. Like, I think she's just thinking in the moment. Like, what? But they're not thinking long term. So long term, yeah. So I'm going to go, not me, somebody else, the kid's age, when he gets older, is going to hook up with their son. And then he's going to be like, can you reenact, going to the bathroom like my mom? Can you act like you're my mom? Yes. So this crap is totally going on, you guys. It's going on for a reason, but like, sometimes it happens. Like, it isn't anything you can control. It's just something in the environment, and it just happens, right? If there was a way to, like, control that, let's control that. No, it just happens because they're going through these, growth phases, and somewhere in this mix of things, those things get picked up, and then it just gets sexualized, and then that's it. And you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know why, right? Because it's like, why is it one guy like this and this other one's like this? It's just environment and growth, that period of them developing. And if there's a lot of abuse in that environment, yeah. And so then we see a lot of things that shouldn't have came about coming from the environment. Whereas, them acting out may not necessarily be bad, but sometimes it is bad. Them acting out may not be bad, but it didn't need to occur. It wouldn't have occurred had there not have been XYZ in the childhood portion. So that's the education that we had and continue to learn, actually. The more that we go even through these stories, the cases where they're getting busted, is like additions. Like we learned this much and then we're learning this stuff and then this. So we know what they're all into. I was even saying, I go, you shouldn't be letting cops take pictures of your kids' feet or any weird thing, because it's the same thing, right? It's like we know they're into the feet thing, but why are they doing it onto children? And why does a cop have like a whole binder full of this, right? And if you're uneducated about that being a kink with somebody, you would ignore that the kid's getting abused. Like they're getting exploited in this way. And I brought it up probably about a decade or so ago. I was like, yeah, I'm a little creeped out by this. And then the public's so ignorant. And it's like, oh, you're just letting your kid get harmed like by all these people. And it's not registering because they're not educated on all these different things and when it's bad and when it's okay. And yeah, there's still so much. I don't think you could learn the whole thing about all of it, but it's still fascinating, on some level. But then at the same time, there's things that are so disturbing that you weren't disturbed by originally, but then when you find out the origin of it, then yeah, it becomes disturbing. And then it's like the sign that, oh, all these guys got totally abused as kids. But the interesting thing about this, to tell it off, like the guy who went into the bathroom and taped all the guys, maybe the guy that is doing stuff like this today. The thing is, I don't know who did it. I was thinking it was this one guy, her friend, but that guy seemed too nice and shy to do that. So I to this day, because I don't even have the video, but his name I don't believe was even said in it, and I don't know who it is, and so I can't follow up on their adult conduct. And it very well may be like it's that guy that's the flag, right? It would almost cue you in that it probably would be, because if you were brazen enough to do that as a kid, there's something with you that for wanting to do that to begin with. And then it would be stuck there. Like he wants to keep taping kids in a bathroom. I'm like, in a bathroom, in a locker room. It's that type of research. Like they don't have they don't have all they get. I think a lot of times on these cases is like, if they could follow them, if they kept getting in trouble, then they have it on record. But these guys lie. They lie. And then they also, I think there's another thing with their brain where it's like, it could be that they don't want to see that conduct is bad. So they wouldn't have a reason to bring it up anyway. And so then you can't go into this whole thing as to, how to catch it as early as possible. And I think that would be the guy right there that you would catch as early as possible. Like, luckily, some of us, though, like I was saying, some of our conduct at that time period did not transpire into adulthood in that way. And if it did, it went into a zone of, we make sure everybody consent, you know what I mean? It had a healthy shift. So at the same time as we're looking at all the cluster Fs, we're looking at us, as kids and the healthy shift. Like, why did it go from we were being all stupid and everything here, and then it went into this healthier shift at a later date, because that's important too, because if that's possible, maybe it just has to do with my background was much more healthier. Things were there that steered it, things were in place, right? Things were in place in my environment to where we make better decisions. Whereas these people, maybe it's that the whole mindset was completely different over here. There isn't this thing where I'm like getting sexual gratification on top of it, doing some weird thing. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of questions in that area. So I was like, yeah, it's important to kind of look at that area because for some reason there is this group that goes from this to that. But then there's this other group that they were the dark horse, this whole thing. And then they turn into these mega monsters, like, and they're permanently effed up, So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just something we're looking at, and I'm trying, that's the area. That really is the area. And I think a lot of those answers are in that cluster of things. And it's a lot of information. It's a lot of different things. It's a lot of environmental things. It's a lot of development things. It's a lot of understanding sexuality things. It kind of crosses into a lot of different areas. And I think it's just a matter of self-reflection and going back over obsessively, obsessively, because you're always going to miss the thing. And looking at yourself in the most honest light, and then reevaluate also the way that you viewed things, because there was things that, I don't know, it's just like I had it arranged a certain way in my brain, and then I went on in life and I just kept repeating that thing and it wasn't accurate. And it's not a purposeful thing. It's just sort of doing telephone with yourself. And then I had to go back and I was like, oh, actually, no, it actually was like this. And then these other different things were going on. Oh, yeah, the East Area Rapist one was totally telephone with myself. It started off like, it had maybe I was I don't think it was embellishing it. I was saying the story. I was trying to make the story sound, more not glorious, more heroic maybe, for, me stopping this terrible man from calling me. And then it just slowly evolved, and then it almost became a different thing than what the original thing happened. It was so weird. And it just happens because it's not really important, right? And then you say the story, and then it just goes on this thing, but no one's really questioning, like, what did the guy really say? And what was this whole thing about? And so I was on Twitter, and this was before any connection to that at all. And it was so weird. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even explain to y'all what happened there. But the memory of the actual event came back the minute I heard the voice on this audio. And I go, oh my God, this whole time I've been saying I don't even know how we ended here. So no, the actual version was this, that, the other. That was the real story. But that's what brought me back to the initial real story. But I was looking at how it changed over the years, just telling the story. Because it was me going, oh, this guy kept calling me, and then my daddy told me to tell him that the guy, that my daddy's shining guns outside. And then I stopped him from doing it, and then this, and then he was like this and like that. And it's just telling the story over and over like that, right? And it was just like, oh, yeah, I got the guy. F that guy. He stopped calling me. We scared him to death. It's like, and that's actually not what happened. I mean, the thing of them telling me about the gun and telling him to do that and then him stop calling. But the actual events, like he called for my mom, and then he said that he went into her drawers and he came into the house. Like, that was the addition. But then there was things that he said that I didn't understand because he was talking in a strange manner and almost robotic. It was really weird. And for some reason, those details didn't matter as I was telling the story in public. Because it didn't matter. It didn't really matter. It's like some creepy ass guy is calling and it turns into this other thing. And, yeah, so the finer details, like, come back as I hear them on this audio. And I go, oh no. And then it, whatever reason, it pulls the filing system up in my memory banks of the real event, like the actual real event. And then I finally go, oh, finally there's a answer to who this person is and a reason. There was a reasonable thing to understand why this person was calling me. And then it just came together. It was so weird. It was so weird because my parents are throwing me off. There was like this addition to them throwing me off about the story. And yeah, so they kind of guide the kid in the wrong way. So that was an addition. Yeah, so they did that. And I go, no, the actual event was this, and that's the real event. And I'm saying why that matters is because just generally how we think of things, things that may seem not important at the time, and over time you tell stories or you just forget them. And so when you're going back into your memory banks, you may have some difficulty with that. So, and certain things will bring back up the real events. It's so weird, the things that my friends have remembered that were not proper. And I was like, there's got to be an answer to why that's going on. But, and it's not me in the wrong. I'm chronically dissecting that area, so I'm always on it. So it's constantly going to be a new memory for me. It's constantly going to be in the forefront, right? For them, they're probably not even thinking twice about what happened in like 7th grade 24/7. So it's very fresh to me because I'm chronically going back into it going, oh my God, this one time we did this thing and why did we do that? And I'm trying to figure out like these areas. So yeah, so for me, it's all shocking. I'm like, you don't remember that? I was like, it's like yesterday for me because we're like going through this whole thing. They're like, that's so bizarre. She just randomly asked me this, and why is she asking me this crap? It's like, yeah, because there's things I'm probably like. I was trying to actually apologize to somebody because I used to give her a nickname. I used to give her this nickname, and she didn't like it. But for some reason, it was funny to me. But I wasn't trying to really degrade her. I loved my friend to death. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, oh, I seem to not care how my friend feels here. She doesn't like it. And so I was going through this thing. It's probably kind of petty, but maybe it wasn't petty to her, right? So I was thinking about it. I go, you know what? I need to apologize. It could be 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. I go, I need to tell her I'm sorry for that. It's so stupid, but then she don't want to talk to me on the phone. Like, it wasn't like she didn't, people were saying she wanted to speak with me for years, and then I couldn't get her number, and I get her number, and then, I mean, maybe it's a personal thing, like something's going on over there, it has nothing to do with me, but I wanted to get on the phone. My purpose was I wanted to get on the phone and just say, I'm sorry for being that asshole, because I apparently didn't really care about your feelings that much as a teen, and, yeah, it's that thing, it's not like I did anything totally horrific to her or anything. It was just that. And it was bothering me because I don't like that. I was so detached, like, at that time period with, like, not, I didn't really, I shouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? But I'm sure she's not, like, losing sleep over it. But for me, yeah, I was like, I could do better, right? So that was me trying to do that. So even to this day, I told her, I go, I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. I texted it, and that was it. I was like, she's probably like, what? That's just weird. I don't know, but it was bothering me. So just to say, there's nothing wrong with me. It was bothering me because I'm analyzing things that I did, and honestly, she probably is not even thinking twice about it. And I'm sitting here going, I need to apologize for that. I went out of my way to try to like, can I tell you this? Because I don't want to leave planet Earth without you knowing, like, I'm sorry for doing that as a teen. You might not even care. But I do. I give everybody nicknames. I still do to this day. Some people I don't care about. Like, some people I don't care about. But that was actually my friend. I was like, why am I doing that to my damn friend? I give everybody nicknames. That's just, I don't know. I remember it much better than people's real names. It's based on a characteristic, and sometimes those characteristics are not good. Sometimes they're not good. Oh, yeah. And then I noticed that you could have seen this a million miles away, that society would treat me bad because in school they were bullies, right? The ones that are coming out saying, it's probably like two different things going on. The ones that are coming out saying, oh, I was so bullied, and then now they're famous, have also become bullies from hell. And that's what catapulted them to where they're at. And they have a thing where they're shut off from caring about other people. And so the more you can run people over, the easier it is, to do business. So, those people. But it also could be that they also were bullies, and they're trying to flip things around. So those two things are definitely going on, because there's these ones that are like, oh, I was so bullied. And then they were like the total school bully, right? And but there are some that I think that, yeah, they were bullied, and then now they're just pieces of shit. I mean, beyond. And I'm calling it out. And I go, it's kind of funny because we kind of enable it. And I go, we need to not enable it. We're enabling it because of Gen X and the baby boomers and everybody else. So how, oh, we need to just let it be because that's just how they are, or, this thing. And you just get used to being in this environment and stuff. And it's like at some point you got to like cut the cord, man. Because, we actually shouldn't be, oh, this is just totally fine. It's not. So it takes a lot of work to kind of go through each of these pieces of things. But with this dude that we're talking about, to tell me that none of y'all picked this up, you got, I wouldn't say he's got total baby face, but there's something a little weird about him. I don't know. I would have to be around him to be like, oh yeah, he's got like the thing about him and something. Yeah. Like, because you would notice it because they're not really, the thing that's getting them their kicks is this thing. So they wouldn't technically really be too much wanting to be around adults and adult females or adult men. Their interest is in kids. And then, Michael was always around little kids, and then he'd have this, female around once in a blue moon. It's kind of like the Beard, but he did prey on them when they were kids. So even all the a lot of the females that are in the story, yeah, when they were kids, like stuff like that. So, like the signs are there, and then everybody knows his childhood, and his childhood was really effed up, right? And there was a lot in it. Like, there's a lot in it. Like, there's so much in it that every time I go through it, it's just like, okay, there's this, there's that. Multiple people are guilty in the story. It isn't, oh, just this dude, It's like the brothers, the dad, society, a whole bunch of people, and a lot of things at play. And that's what you're talking about, environment. And then what people enable, and having people just say, minimize it and say everything he did was fine. And it's like, this is ridiculous. That is severe mental health issues. And it doesn't help the person that has it because they need to get help, right? So then you see the end of it is terrible, right? It just ends badly. And it's not good for the person suffering from it because, they harm to self and others, right? Keep it in mind, harm to self and others. So this person just did harm to self and others. Now he harms himself. Now he's going to go to prison. But what, you want to get to the point of like what led up to it and where were the early signs. And so you don't get to the point where they're now adults and perpetrating. You want to get it before they start perpetrating into adulthood. And that's the area you need to focus on. They just sit there and let it happen and then go after them when they're like 44. This doesn't start at 44, guys. This is definitely through childhood. It's a childhood development thing. And we need to focus there. It's so, I cannot stress this more than, life itself. That area is so important and it needs to be really, really tackled. And they need to find ways to cut into this area right there and make sure it doesn't transpire into decades of abusing a bunch of people and then finally they get caught. I'm almost certain the guy probably binging this anywhere he goes. Like when they go on tour, can you imagine? And there could be victims across the globe because they may tour globally from Canada to, China, Japan, wherever they're going to go. And the dude's going to be doing that. If he goes into Japan, they had the AOC at 13. Seeing this dude roaming up in there, they probably wouldn't even have thought twice about this dude. That movement is just barely making its round over there. So I've been speaking out a lot on that. The men don't care. They're fine with being touched and everything else. And you'll see the guys that are like, I was touched when I was a kid, and they're like the worst offenders and the ones that least care, that do not do anything about the problem, and they're abusive to everybody. Like, it's so weird. Like, it's that thing. They're like, I was touched as a little kid, and then they're out touching everybody and having all these allegations, and then when you bring up that somebody else did it, then they go work with them. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty much the clusterfuck that these men are. And some of the women, yeah. So the women are like, oh, I had all this happen to me, but you know what, I really love men. I don't even know what the hell this is with women who have mental health issues. I like, when we're talking about this topic, right, they have to throw in this weird tag, and I love men. I love men. It's like, why do you feel the need to say that? Like, this is when you need the therapist in the room, because, like, what the hell is that? And they do it, and it's almost like a pin, like, oh, the rest of us totally like, absolutely hate them. And you should only listen to me because I actually love you guys. So let me tell you. Yeah, I don't know. It's some weird thing, psychological thing over there. But no, if they're being atrocious monsters, you're also just as guilty because you're their mothers. And you're acting this way and enabling them, and they didn't come out this way for no reason. So it's the whole thing. Like, they all need to be tackled. All these women are like, you know what, we're fine with the rapist in the room. He's like a true man. I don't know what the hell, but I've had enough of them all. Everybody. I've had enough of every single one of these loon goons. But this is a typical story. We continue to go through the typical stories. That's why I say it's like, after a while, it's just like, oh, the whole thing. It's going to be the same thing. It's the pastor's son, the band members, this thing, that thing, this thing. They're doing all the things that I think we've talked about, every single crime that you could possibly talk about that these dudes have done. And it's all the same thing at the end of the day. We're just going through now, being more meticulous, I think, on some of the information that, we may have overlooked or didn't quite perceive, as being a problem, such as the mentorship thing, because that one really went woo, for the first decade or so as I was going on about this stuff. So I was like, yeah, I don't know that for some reason. And then just more research. The research is hard. I told you guys. Oh, autism. Okay, so they never diagnose most of these people with autism or being on the spectrum. And the people that are really hard to get are the people that are on the spectrum, that are high functioning. And if they don't have that data, how can they conclusively go into this thing and say, maybe it's a thing where all the sociopaths and all the, psychopaths are on the spectrum? And not that being on the spectrum makes them sociopaths or psychopaths, but how can they go through this properly? Because that would be an addition that could have something to do with their learning, their emotional, has something to do with their emotional and some of their learning capabilities, I think, or something to do with that. How everything's kind of a little rearranged. So it makes this area really difficult to say. It's just that when they're pulling up these guys, I'm telling you, like, a lot of them are on the spectrum. I'm like, well, if they're on the spectrum, then, I don't know if that's the additions and the stuff as to why their sons are all off kilter. And if that's the case, so just saying, if that's the case, then they need to figure that out much sooner as children and make sure that, things are going on here. So, yeah, but they told me they don't diagnose adults. I actually did try to get a test here. So there's got to be a place where I could do this. But the doctor looked at me like I was totally psychotic. And she's like, why? Are you having problems? I was like, no, I need to know. It helps me out. And they're like, yeah, we don't test adults. And like, nobody's asked them to do that. And I'm just like, well, I'm surprised they haven't. But yeah, so they have nothing for that in this area. And it's actually really important because that would be a genetic factor. And we need to see why I have an idea why the genetic factor would be at play here, just because of the emotional thing. But also the environment, because parents abuse the kids more when they have, they don't listen or something like that. And they're not acting the way that they want them to. And so there's these things at play. And so I'm trying to figure it out. or at least bring forward to the community that does the research that you should maybe look at this because we're noticing this. It helps the research because somebody recently was even talking about that, going, yeah, if we start looking at it on a spectrum, maybe we can get more money for research. And I go, yeah, it's a it definitely is a spectrum because we've done psychopathic things. I was like, but I'm not a psychopath. But but when you're talking about the clinical definition of it, like they definitely are on the far end of a spectrum, but the general population can jump in and out of that, area right there. So to me, it's just like a moving spectrum. And that includes the empaths who can also fall into harm self and others. Holy crap. So that's the far other end. I mean, at least that's how I'm viewing it in my brain. Like they may view it in a different way, right? I don't know, but that's just the easy way how I look at it, just going back and forth on this spectrum. Like there's these people who are like overly like, we don't want to, we don't want to put him in prison for 20 years and we should just let him roam free. Okay, that's the empath that gets us all harmed and killed. And then, you go to the other side. But then they both suffer really bad because the empath is acting that way because of child abuse and being overly sensitive to, other people. And then the manipulator, evil one on the other side is sensitive to other people's emotions, but they manipulate them and they do evil things with them. So it's kind of interesting, but that's just how I viewed it. Or at least that's how it came about as I was reading stories. I'm like, this person's over here and this person's over here. And then we kind of move around on this, midsection, and then there's some people that, they might be lower end. Like they wouldn't say things like I would, I mean, I know you exist. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I'm saying those people exist, right? Where they may not really dive too deep over here. But I would say you get more toxic the more you go on either which way. The over positive people, don't say these things, don't say negative things. Those people, oh yeah. So there isn't anything really perfect here. There's just middle human, and where something's sort of average, human, where it's imperfect. And you can't not hurt somebody 100% of the time. You're going to say something that somebody gets offended by, or you say something that a joke doesn't land well, this type of thing. And some of your conduct may not be the greatest, and it's not somewhere in the middle, and which is more the healthy area to things. But they all have their pros and cons, right? They talk about the pro on the far end of the spectrum of a Ted Bundy, where if he turns into a doctor or a surgeon that can go deal with cutting people up, but doing it in a positive way. But also even on the empath side, where that's actually helping us because we're the ones that discover who these guys are before everybody else. And the reason, I think the reason for that is just because we're used to being abused by them, that we read the room sooner than everybody else because we're so busy trying to figure out how is, evil daddy going to act today. So we're kind of trying to feel the energy of these people, something about it. We're a little overly, on this thing. So that's how I've been viewing the spectrum. And if they want to do research on that, go ahead. That's just me making a diagram. It doesn't even mean that it's scientific or it's even proper. It's just that's the way that I'm going about it as I'm going through it, because that's just the easiest way in my brain to collectively go this person, that person, that person, that person. But also we know that on both these sides of the spectrum, it's from child abuse. And so that's not a good thing. So it would mean that if there wasn't child abuse, this far end of the spectrum wouldn't be so heavy either, on either side. So it's just that's where it kind of lands. Or, also in the additions of other genetic factors. So the genetic factors that they were bringing up, I was like, yeah, they come into play. They don't make them the sociopath, but they come into play in the environment, and it's important, it's important to know. So I was like, I wish they had more, they did a lot more on this, mostly when you're talking about like these mass shooters and things, I go, there's something, even on this recent one, I go, he might be on a spectrum, something with that one too. So if they're falling on this thing, I go, wow, we're missing so much crap here that it's gonna change maybe some of the ways how you're treating the kids here. Yeah, and his background's pretty bad with his parents and everybody else. So I was like, yeah, that's definitely there. I mean, any kid that's going to run off and do that, that is definitely there. It's definitely there. But, there may be some additions into that because some of us can come from that same, thing, but we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that crime. So, yeah, I mean, that would be the only other additions I could think of is any other genetic things at play that would cause an emotional, would it be an emotional irregulation or something? Like it's not regular. It's not normal, abnormal. But I'm not the professional in that. But this is just my thinking. This is just my general thinking about it because I've read some things on autism and some of the emotional things and how they can get very frustrated and they act out sometimes. So it just depends. And I'm like, those things are really important. Mostly anybody that's very educated on that topic. And then when you put these things together with a bad environment, with something like that, and and then general society with this crap, that it could fling that out. I don't know, but it's in this area. It's definitely in this area. We're like hot on the trail there, but I don't know. But they keep going, please don't do the gun thing. I'm like, the dude is gonna get into a car and just run into a crowd. Don't we see this all the time? I mean, you want to get it to where the human doesn't do any of that. And it's just going to happen because you do that, they're going to do something else because it has to do with the individual. It really does. Like, I'm not here saying everybody should have all these gun rights and all this. I'm the biggest, like, anti-gun person ever. But the truth is, even regardless of me being so anti-gun, I'm not stupid. And I know that that would not stop the injuries that we're all getting. And it goes beyond just shooting, right? It goes into a lot of areas that everybody keeps complaining about. And so they need to focus there. We need more research on it. We need to have them see the conduct because we all grew up together. We all know how the kids were being. And it's just an honest look and then taking a look at to where they're at today. It's pretty obvious that I'm going to end up in a place that's not great because society hated me from the get-go and they were bullies from the start. So society is not going to allow me to thrive. The ones that they allowed to thrive were the ones that then turned into bullies. That's really what it is because I could pull out some people that I followed for years and I'll break it down. I'll go, look, he says he was all bullied. Oh, look how he's being right now. Oh, DC made a lot of money doing that. It's just the truth of the matter. And then he's going to cry about how he got bullied, the whole time. And he's not that victim kid anymore, right? That's long past. But that's what you're going to see in that. It's weird. In high school, I would bully. And then I started bullying a bunch of women. I bully women today. You're misunderstanding. I bully women. Yeah, I have that other dude. There's another dude.